that you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Disconnected.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new live stream. Make sure you guys like the stream down below. Let's get to 100 before we end up turning on that face cam. We're at 96. We got super chats already. We got stuff to get to. We got primary results to, I guess, cover. I don't think it's that consequential in terms of a lot of what we're seeing, but maybe Ilhan Omar could go down. We don't have any results out of that district, but we'll turn on the face cam. We're ready to go. And we've got a lot to talk about. And I don't have the big headphones on because the little aux cable broke between the microphone and those. So we're going to have to improvise with the, I guess you would say the retro headphones, the ones we used to always use, which is fine. I mean, they're less bulky and everything like that, but there's less feedback that I get from it. So hopefully the audio sounds good. I would assume it does. But we got 800 live viewers. Like the stream, subscribe. If you guys want to send in super chats, feel free. We got a lot to get to tonight, but nothing out of the 5th district in Minnesota. That is the #1 primary race. Besides, actually, the Senate primary is interesting too, and we'll look at the results all night, but I do want to talk about some other stuff. But you do have Royce White, who's kind of, I guess you would say, a little bit more controversial, unconventional, going up against Joe Frazier, who's more conventional, less controversial, probably less of a drag on like the Senate race, to be honest. But I mean, either way, I don't think Republicans are winning it. I don't think it really matters who wins the nomination overall. They're going to lose by 10 points or more to Amy Klobuchar. Minnesota is not a state that Republicans are really going to be in a good position to flip, even at the presidential level, in my opinion. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be like a 10-point Democrat win just because their VP pick happens to be on the ticket. I don't think that's really what's doing it. But there's been a lot of talk about a lot of polling data that we've seen, and we have the polls, and Kamala Harris is leading the polls. We're going to get another poll tomorrow out of Monmouth, and it's probably going to be like Harris +6, and the whole internet's going to be in meltdown mode because that's how these things operate. But people need to still chill. It's funny, you look at this, Harris is up by 1.1, and then you look at the polling averages from 2020 and 2016. Biden and Clinton led by an average of 6 points more than Kamala Harris currently leads by. But people are still going to say the sky is falling, it's over, and it's not. It's far from over. I think Donald Trump is the favorite, and we're going to explain why during this live stream as we look at some of these results here. We have Wisconsin as well. Yeah, we don't have anything out of the 5th district on the Democrat side. Now, it is true Democrats are trying to primary out Amy Klobuchar because, I don't know, I guess you have the far left energized in the Somali areas, but it's not really working out too well so far, 97%. We'll go to Wisconsin. Eric Hovde, oh, look at those margins for Eric Hovde. 89.3% of the primary vote already. The party is already unified behind him, and we're only at 15% of the votes counted. But keep in mind, that's not bad for Wisconsin. It's not bad to count that many votes in Wisconsin this far out. Wisconsin is a state that, you know, we talk about the impact of the early voting and the impact of how the votes are counted. Are we going to, get the results within the first day? We got pretty much all the results in Wisconsin before the infamous 3 a.m., 4 a.m. actually, ballot dump in 2020. I think we're going to know the winner of Wisconsin on election night. I think it's going to be Donald Trump. I think Kamala Harris is really going to do very poorly in the state, for the record. But let's see here. We'll go back to Minnesota. And again, Minnesota not counting the votes very quickly as things stand right now. Nothing out of the 5th district. We're 30 minutes after the polls have closed. But I want to talk about the polls a little bit. We're going to talk about Trump and Elon as well. We'll get the super chats mixed in here. I don't know, probably around the 15 to 20 minute mark or so. But you look at the polls, already Trump, for August, if you showed people this chart, at the beginning of the year, everybody's going to be celebrating. It'd be Christmas. They'd be throwing, celebrations. We'd have fireworks. We'd do 4th of July a second time in August because that's how good the polls would look for Donald Trump, and they would see that we're facing Kamala Harris. But because of the circumstances, it's like a lot of people are acting like it's their first election cycle. They've never understood how to play with a lead until now, I guess. And, they don't know how to play with a lead because they've never led. That's the thing. And there's so much trauma and PTSD that a lot of these people have from 2022. And it's like, if you let it break you, you're just going to lose your marbles. You're going to lose your mind. And I think it'll amaze people that I just kept on going after 2022. I didn't stop for a second. The day after was like, I was asking questions like, is this even real? Is it even worth it to continue? But then you wait, you let it set in for a couple days and you go from there. And that's kind of what we're doing. But you have a lot of people who just never got out of the doom. And like I said on my last stream, I'm calling for a complete and total shutdown on dooming until we can figure out what the hell is going on, because so many people still have not figured out how elections in this country work and how polling cycles work. And I'm not saying that Harris has not gained over Biden, because I think honestly she has, to be fair. I mean, you had a lot of Democrats who, didn't exactly want to vote for Joe Biden or Donald Trump for one reason or another. And Kamala Harris is like the shiny new toy, the fresh face. She's getting crowds, a lot of which is, bought and paid for essentially, but she's still getting them. And she's getting a lot of social media attention, even though a lot of that is bought and paid for. It's all fake. And I've never met anybody who's flipping from, being a Trump voter to Kamala Harris, or even third party to Kamala. I actually know people that are doing the opposite because they don't like Kamala Harris. And I know plenty of other people who are doing the opposite because they don't like Kamala Harris as well. And that's the thing. Now, I'll say that a lot of people, if they do want to check out Kamala, it's soft support. It's not that they're becoming Kamala Harris diehards. Now, you could say, well, soft support might be enough to carry over if people are going to be starting to vote in September. And it's technically true that they've done this at a convenient time for them. But is it still even going to be enough? I would probably say no, especially given the typical August polling bias. I think it just finally kicked in, and Kamala Harris is up by, 1% nationally? And part of that is because we had some polls from like the Daily Costs, not very accurate. And even then, we've seen some of these pollsters in the mix, like TIPP, CBS, Daily Costs, NPR, Marist, Reuters, Morning Consult. They've given Biden similar leads like this, even back in like June. And people weren't acting like the house was on fire. But now that they occupy the aggregate, it's like, oh, everything is, collapsing, we should be up in arms. I don't necessarily believe that should be the case. Now, I do think the race has changed, and I wrote this in a tweet that some of you guys could probably read. I'll read it out loud because it might be too small for some people, and obviously nothing's updated in the House race there. But we say, about these response biases is that if pollsters polled the same exact people the entire election cycle, you would not see swingy shifts. Even if the electorate was not fully representative of the nation as a whole, you would not see these shifts like right and left at the rate that we're seeing it right now. And this even goes back to 2008 when McCain picked Palin and he skyrocketed up in the polls, or 2012 after the first debate with Obama, or even the Access Hollywood stuff. Did that really impact a lot of people's votes? I mean, the media really wanted people to believe it did, but in reality, a lot of that was just political theater. That's all it was. And it opened up a lot of people's eyes too. But again, pollsters don't do this. And we see samples like from Florida Atlantic University. They have Donald Trump in terms of the callback, where they say, did you vote for this person in 2020 or did you vote for this other person? Donald Trump in the callback was at 36% of the electorate. but Kamala Harris only leads by 4. That's virtually impossible. Usually, yes, it's lower, but the guy got 47. Maybe it's 42 and then 45, for example, for Biden. The rest didn't vote. And then those people, we've seen in polling that they're leaning towards Trump. Maybe with Kamala Harris in the mix, that would be a little bit of a neutralizing factor there, because it has energized more people on the left. But still, I don't think it's going to be overwhelming. But, still, you look at where people are shifting in the polls. Donald Trump supporters in every poll are sticking with Trump more so than Biden supporters are sticking with Biden. So again, you talk about the sampling, and yeah, callback samples are not always going to be 1-to-1. I get that. It's not perfect, but this is malpractice when you have somebody at 36 and to claim that this is like a legitimate poll, because it's clearly suffering from some sort of response bias. That's not to say that Donald Trump is polling, net worse now than he was against Biden. But again, he probably hasn't lost support. He was at 48% before. In my opinion, it was like 48-45. You had some undecideds. You had some people saying RFK Jr. They probably would have gone home one way or another at the end of the day. Maybe not if they were, Democrats who oppose Biden. But now he's probably a neck-and-neck race with Harris nationally, which, again, that's not good enough given where the Electoral College popular vote cutoff is. Remember, Hillary Clinton, she won the popular vote by over 2 points. She lost the Electoral College. She lost 3 states by, on average, like around a little bit less than 1%. But still, she would have to win nationally by closer to 3 to win. And then for Biden, it was closer to 4. Now, that might come back down a little bit to 3, just based off of the way things are going, because New York is getting redder, Florida, California to an extent. I think Texas even turning a corner is going to help out too. But still, Kamala Harris is not a good candidate in terms of getting these white working class voters in the Rust Belt on board. And the polls are garbage because they show Harris getting Obama 08 levels of support among that demographic. That is impossible, especially if you're putting her up against Donald Trump. John McCain had no appeal to that demographic. Donald Trump, that's his unique point of strength, is energizing that voter base. And if he's only up among white working class voters by 10 points against Harris, that's a major problem. At least Biden, maybe not current Biden, but Biden going into 2020, he had some appeal with that demographic. He's old Joe. He's blue collar Joe, Scranton Joe. It's all fake. We know it's fake. Catholic Joe, right? All these names that they would give him so they could kind of create this facade of appeal. And obviously people understand that that's just a facade, especially at this point. But, that's exactly what it was. And in terms of what the polls are doing, I even think in the Rust Belt, they were underestimating Trump against Biden in Michigan when Biden dropped out, in Wisconsin when Biden dropped out. Pennsylvania, they tend to be more accurate. But if you look at the polls in Pennsylvania, if we could pull this up, I don't know if we have it offhand because we might be a little bit too zoomed in. Okay, wait, no, here we go. Pennsylvania. You look at the polls in Pennsylvania. Donald Trump actually leads in Pennsylvania. Despite that garbage New York Times poll, he leads by 4 points against Kamala Harris. And all these polls have been conducted post-dropout. And she's kind of at a peak right now. Trafalgar does a little bit of a better job in the Rust Belt. This far out, they were accurate in the midterms. They had Oz losing by, 4 in their August poll of 2022, I believe. And in 2020, at the end of the day, they were spot on in Pennsylvania. They had it as a tie. It was a dead heat, more so than a lot of these other pollsters that had, if you want to go back, Biden, this day in history, set 6-7 point lead. Hillary Clinton in Pennsylvania in August, 9% lead. She lost. That's a swing of over 10 points to the right, but people still want to complain and say the sky is falling. And we know polling errors don't always carry over, but that really applies to the Trump v. Biden polls where you didn't have much of a reason to have some sort of response bias. Now you do because you got the shiny toy that's, it's not all that shiny when you really look at it closely, and people aren't quite doing that just yet. But already we see signs of Harris in certain national polling. She's news. Morning Consult, she's falling. Even Reuters, she's falling. So again, is it really all that doom and gloom for Republicans? Probably not, because the polls just don't make all that much sense right now. And people are not letting the dust settle, and they're jumping to conclusions. And, obviously people need to just level their emotions a little bit. We talk about Donald Trump not doing rallies. Donald Trump, questions about his messaging. He's starting to find that groove. Donald Trump not being on social media enough, not getting on X or Twitter. He's doing that now. You see that now. And already you see all these articles that are written. The liberals are melting down because Donald Trump went on a Twitter space with Elon Musk. They're melting down that he's using it. Why is the media freaking out? A, because they know his messaging is good. They know that they cannot spin it in a negative way. But also B, they are really just afraid that Donald Trump is actually, using a platform that he's got almost 100 million people to talk to, and to control the narrative and take the narrative back that, it's just Kamala Harris and her little coconut mafia going out there and just trying to hype her up, which already, to me, it seems like the hype has died down a little bit. And maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the hype, there was a lot of initial hype the first couple weeks. It's an unusable app. And to a large degree, I'm sure when the Monmouth Harris +5, Harris +6 poll comes out tomorrow, which is anticipated, they had Biden up by 11 points in their August 2020 poll. We know that was off by 6 to 7 points. So again, people need to just chill out and relax and just keep fighting. I think that the main thing is there's a lot of angst because there's not a lot of clarity, but people need to channel that into actual production and work. I'm not telling people to be complacent and just kick their feet up on the desk. I'm just telling them not to panic and act like the house is on fire. Because there's two things that can be true at once, and we're seeing that across the board. But the other thing I'll touch base on, and we'll get to Super Chats, and we'll check the Minnesota results, but there are no Minnesota results in from the 7th. If we refresh, we have apparently Royce White taking the lead. In Wisconsin, again, are there any results? I think the 8th district is the only one that there's like a real competitive primary that's going to determine who is going to be in that seat there. It's probably going to be Roger Roth, who is the Trump-endorsed candidate in that race. But other than that, there's nothing out of Vermont at all, it seems. They're running a gubernatorial race. Phil Scott, he'll win easily. He's more liberal than Biden. He's a Republican, quote-unquote Republican. But, Connecticut, not a lot's really going on in Connecticut. But we're still waiting out of some Minnesota results. We don't have any. We're 47 minutes in to Minnesota. 0 results on the board. But I did want to touch base on the Senate poll, where Democrats are probably not going to retake the Senate. And here's proof. Tim Sheehy hit 50% in a poll. And you could say maybe it's a right-leaning poll. But still, it's outside the margin of error. He's led polls before. This poll was after the Trump rally, which had like half the city of Bozeman's worth of population at least show up in the vicinity of it. And Trump was on, I thought it was his best rally since Biden dropped out. And I think that the best Trump rally this cycle was the rally before Biden dropped out. But that was a good rally up in Montana. He's going to be in, I believe, North Carolina tomorrow with, I think, Vance. And I think Vance is going to go to Michigan as well. Or maybe Vance is not going to be in North Carolina, but he will be in Michigan. And Saturday, Trump is going to be doing a rally. Where's Kamala's rally? She's doing a rally, I think, on Friday. I guess they need to drum up some more money to pay. I really believe that a lot of the people they have there, they're bussing them in, or they're giving some incentive. It may be some of it might be real. I'm not saying it. I don't really think crowd sizes matter that much anyways. I don't think they win elections. Kamala could have 80,000 people at every rally. Doesn't mean anything. It literally doesn't. Obama had hundreds of thousands of people at his rallies, even up to 2012. I mean, he won. But, it's not like if that was cut in half that he would have lost or something like that. It's a testament to enthusiasm, but enthusiasm is not entirely fully indicative of how likely people are to actually show up and vote. I mean, Bernie Sanders and his people were the most enthusiastic in the primary you'd ever seen. He was having rallies that are Trump-sized, filling up arenas in Seattle and all these other places. He did not win very many states in that primary. He did not beat Hillary Clinton in that primary because the actual electorate is not representative of the average rally goer. And I'm not saying rallies don't help. I think they help Trump a lot. You know, it's free media coverage in an area. It's definitely good for them for sure. But again, it's not everything. It may not be nothing, but it's definitely not everything. And it's much closer to nothing than being everything. You look at Biden with his circles and all the votes that he gets from the 6 circles. So you look at that. There's many different ways to get votes. I'm not just talking about shenanigans, but, you know, it was a close race. Everybody knows it's still every election in our country is going to be close regardless. And it gets lost on so many people that either think Trump is going to blow out Harris, which I think he could have blown out Biden like Obama '08 levels because that's how bad it was getting for Biden. But, you know, Trump-Harris, the other side saying, we're going to flip Texas and Florida. No, you're not. You're not going to win the Senate either. That's the main takeaway. If this Senate seat goes red, that's huge because not only do Republicans get the Senate, that's more money they could put in Ohio, more money they could put in Michigan, more money they could put in Nevada for the Senate races or Arizona or even Wisconsin, which I think that there's going to be less ticket splitting than people expect at the end of the day. I really do. And we'll see that unfold hopefully on election night when we get some results in at what's it going to be, 6:30 Central, Ohio. I mean, the results are going to skew left for sure because that they put in the blue areas first, the mail-in votes first, and it's going to skew in favor of Biden and Kamala Harris, I should say, now, and Sherrod Brown. But if that gap between them is like 4 points, I'll be like, well, I told you so. I would not be surprised. I would be more surprised if Sherrod Brown ended up winning, actually, at this point. Despite the fact that, Moreno, he's not spending a lot of money right now, but he's got a lot of ads that are waiting for Labor Day, $100 million ad buy. That's absolutely huge. So we'll see where that ends up taking him. But it's not like he's going to be left in the dark. But Tim Sheehy, if he's actually up by, 5 to 10 points, that's more money you don't have to spend, and you could pull some of those reservations, either give it to Trump or give it to, wherever the money is going to end up going. Because definitely money does matter. And we talk about Donald Trump. He's outspending Harris in Pennsylvania. He's outspending Harris in Georgia. They're neck and neck in North Carolina, which is probably going to go red anyways. That is the killer combo. You get those 3 states. If you're Donald Trump, nothing else matters. It is game over. You can say goodnight to Kamala Harris. Wisconsin won't matter. Nevada won't matter. Arizona won't matter. I'm not saying he shouldn't try in those states because he absolutely should. But there's a reason why there's so much focus on Pennsylvania and Georgia in the ad buys. And again, ads are not everything. And we need people out and voting. But I mean, they're important. They are important because a lot of people, they need to, get into the mood of election season, and you can't have 0 ad presence. I'm not saying you have to just go all out and only do ads, but they're good to have. They're good to have because, a lot of people, are they really in the election mood right now the way that they were in 2020? I mean, turnout's not going to be as high on either side, but still, we got to do what we can to compete in that department. So we'll look at the super chats. We've got quite a bit of super chats here. 3,000 live viewers in chat. Hopefully, we'll see. Is it the funeral of Ilhan Omar or is it not? I honestly think she probably might end up winning because of her district and just how left-leaning they are. I mean, she was caught off guard, but she's spending a decent amount of money this time. I think she's probably going to end up winning. And some people will say it's going to be a tragedy if she gets reelected. And I don't look either way. You could make an argument in favor of, her being there makes us look good. And I've said that about other people like Bowman and Bush and these crazy lunatics they have. Like, let the left have these lunatics. It discredits them as a whole. They defend them. Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar were, best friends or whatever for a little while. I mean, it's good to have that connection of them together, tie these people together just to see what happens in the election season. I mean, it's always a good card to have, good card to play if they're just there. But, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see when we get results, and we don't have any results in. So Johnny Heartdog says, what's the deal with Musk? Is he slowly becoming conservative? I wonder what's going on inside him. Maybe he's waking up. I've said it for a while. I think that Elon Musk is somebody who's getting red pilled. I said it back in 2020, 23, when I'm like, okay, well, the guy's not perfect. Initially, he's like a liberal. He voted for Biden. But he's, some people will eventually move to the right, and sometimes it's genuine, and sometimes they'll actually become solid assets. And he's somebody you don't want to not have on your side. He's one of the most powerful people in the entire country. He is. And you're seeing it unfold. He's taking control of Twitter. He brought free speech back to Twitter, and he's moving more right on the issues. He endorsed Donald Trump. He, I think he changed a lot because I think he had a son who I think one of his ex-wives allowed to become a daughter, quote unquote daughter of sorts, and he's torn apart about it, and that definitely is something that's going to light a fire under you in any circumstance. So I think that's probably part of what played the role, and he's talking more and more. He was an atheist. Now it seems like he's coming around to the idea of a potential God. I mean, it's a slow process. I mean, it really is. I'm not saying he's going to be perfect overnight, but he's definitely getting red pilled, and it takes time. And that's why I think that there's room for soft allies like Elon, because the more that you push him away, I feel like the less likely they'll come around. And he's definitely powerful. And that was a huge space that he did, not just in terms of the volume of traffic or how long it was, but it was just very consequential. That's why the media is just lying their asses off about it, saying Trump was slurring his words when you play the clip. And it's like, what level of gaslighting is this bullshit? Because that's exactly what it is. It's bullshit. So let's see. Johnny Heartdog again says, I think it's smart for Trump to lay low until the convention. It's equally smart for him to have Vance do PR. It boosts his image, and it's giving him hands-on experience. Yeah, something happened to him. It lit a fire under Vance. He was, initially people were saying he's not charismatic, and I understood why. I thought he's a nice guy. I think he's, softens Trump's image to an extent. I didn't think he was like anti-charismatic, but he's really found his, I've heard the term sea legs. He's found his footing. He's really flying right now. He's doing a great job. It's incredible how he handled all the media. He's handling them well, defending Trump. I think that he's going to obliterate Tim Walz in that VP debate. He's becoming more well-spoken, too. I mean, initially, it's easy to define him. But again, his unfavorable rating is still like 43%. There's a lot of people that just don't have an opinion on the guy, and despite all the media blitz, and he's got enough time to really rectify that. Now, Tim Walz, on the other hand, it's like 30% favorable. His favorables are lower than Vance, but his unfavorables are also lower than his favorables. So not a lot of people know about Tim Walz quite yet. So the more people get to know each candidate, I think Vance is going to be an acquired taste. And I think Walz, I don't even think he's like a reverse acquired taste. I think just people are going to come to resent the guy as a clown. People are acting like this guy is like a warrior, a fighter, like some legendary guy. He's stolen valor. He lied. He said he was in Afghanistan. He was never in Afghanistan. This is like Biden tier lying, George Santos tier lying. Imagine if Vance lied about it, you would never hear the end of it, and it would be a big deal. And it would definitely actually probably hurt the ticket a little bit, unlike the nonsense about the cat lady stuff that's out of context. But let's see. Johnny Heartdog for 20 says, I'm preaching to the choir, but did you notice the contrast with how the media reports Kamala's no tax on tips, not ready here, versus how they, or not really hers, versus how they reported Trump's no taxes on tips? If you're surprised, wake up. Yeah, I'm not surprised, but the deal is everyone's writing on tips. Everywhere I go, vote Trump, no tax on tips. It's his signature. Her taking it is not exactly going to help her out the way I feel like she thinks it will, because it never works that way. She's co-opting a popular policy that Donald Trump had. It's not like she did it in a reasonable way either. And she's not going to do it. And Trump on the space with Elon was a genius move that he said this. He says they are hiring all these IRS agents to harass workers. And that's the Trump card, no pun intended. Maybe a little pun intended, but no pun intended, because that's all you need to say. It's all you need. But Trump did a great job. You can tell by the left's reactions. That's always the best way to gauge it. I'm not saying it's going to move the needle a lot, but it was definitely a net positive. And Roger Roth is now up with 21% reporting in the 8th district. Royce White is expanding his lead in Minnesota. We'll see if that continues. We'll see if that holds. It's actually growing, but we have nothing out of Omar's district, nothing out of Omar's. So we'll keep doing super chats. LinRX52 for 20 says, just a little support. Always appreciate your analysis. Well, I always appreciate your super chat, so thank you. Ice Cream Junkie says, if Omar wins, it's because, quote-unquote, voters saved our democracy. If she loses, it's because, quote-unquote, AIPAC bought our democracy. And it's true, and I don't like big money meddling in primaries. I don't care where it comes from. But either way, Ilhan Omar, I mean, she definitely is somebody that she's pissed off a lot of people on the left too. I don't even think AIPAC was giving money to her opponent in 2022, but she almost ended up losing. But the establishment, I mean, that is kind of what it is. They're trying to knock her out for one reason or another. A lot of it is because it's just a headache for them, and they want her to lose because, unlike somebody like AOC, who they could just put a muzzle on, they're not exactly doing the same thing to her. But it's true, they will find some way to cope regardless of the result, if it's one vote or two votes or whatever. I mean, these people don't take responsibility for their own actions. You know, they could run a competent campaign and win regardless of that, to be fair. There's a lot of factors at play. But I mean, it is a problem. I agree. Big money shouldn't be in politics. I'm not going to deny that. Doesn't matter what side. The NRA, their problem too, for the record. And it's ironic because they're responsible for the bump stock ban. Everyone likes to talk about the NRA. And I'm not saying the NRA it's not possible that it could change. It's a large institution. But I mean, they were the ones that crafted. Everyone on the right, they're like, oh, well, Trump was weak on the bump stock ban, which is now not in effect because Trump's own judge overturned it. But that was the NRA that was actually pressuring for that, behind that. And there's a lot of organizations that are better than the NRA that don't get enough attention, like the GOA, the Gun Owners of America, and they don't support any form of gun control. That's a problem. Mikey79 says, stream is exactly what I need. Work sucked today. Well, I'm glad I could help. Jadit McSwag says, we should be fired up after beating Joe, not Doom. Yeah, the thing is, I think this bleeds over to Trump as well, because you have the super villain, the rival that just basically commits, in a way, he wasn't really committing political suicide. Well, he was, but that's not the point. But he had people essentially politically take him out. He's now gone. He died essentially in the realm of politics. And you're the man you wanted revenge on, because this is part of what Trump is doing, is a revenge tour. He beat the guy, but he didn't beat him in the electoral arena. It's going to demoralize you to a large extent. But now I feel like Donald Trump, now that he's like trailing in some polls, people are saying he's the underdog. That's also something that lights the fire under him, completes the comeback story. I mean, the greatest comeback story in American history, arguably one of the greatest comeback stories of all time. Nothing will ever top the resurrection, of course, but of a man, of an actual, like, full-on man, it would be a comeback, a political comeback for Trump would probably be the greatest political or greatest comeback story in American history, greatest comeback story of the past, 1900 and whatever years. That would definitely be something that it'll be talked about for the ages. And they're just giving him more arrows, and people need to just respond accordingly instead of throwing a temper tantrum, acting like the sky is falling, everything is on fire. It's not on fire. The house is not on fire. I'm not saying everything's perfect, but the house is not on fire. Y'all effed up says, I think Ilhan Omar's election will tell us how Trump will perform in the election. Tim Walz is cut from this. Yeah, no, it's not going to have any impact. This is a Democrat primary. This is not like a special election, and even those are not fully indicative. Ice Cream Junkie says, Dems in the 1860s Without slaves who will pick the crops, Dems in 24. Without illegal immigrants who will pick the crops. It's large. I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, like, it technically, in a way, it's true. I mean, these are people currently that are, they're operating under the same logic that people in the past have operated under, that had no logic. Because keep in mind, our economy would have been probably a lot of economies without slavery were far better off than with them. In fact, a lot of people in the North, they wanted to free the slaves for economic reasons. I don't think they really cared much about these people, and even many people wanted to ship them back across the Atlantic. Even Lincoln was not opposed to doing such a thing, as many people like to look up to Lincoln as some, icon of, the black ascension or whatever, or emancipation, whatever you want to call it. Anthony Solomon says, thanks for the show. Well, thank you for the 5. Lovely 6 says, Fuentes said he'll campaign against Trump in swing states. What do you make of that? Seems to be coming more unhinged. I don't really have anything to say about it. If he wants to, the thing is, it's funny because Donald Trump, like all the talking points against Donald Trump that I see from a lot of these people, they're cherry-picked to a large degree, because Donald Trump in 2020 ran a very weak campaign that did not have a vision, did not focus on getting out to vote these, white working class voters or whatever. And some of these people did criticize him then. I was criticizing him then. But some of these other people just have this grudge against Trump for whatever reason, because, Trump doesn't hate Israel for some reason. And it's like he never had that position. Or, I hear a lot of talk about, Trump's campaign manager said this thing, but then why are you taking it out of context if it's so bad? And if you're claiming Trump is pandering too much to minorities and should pander to the white voter base, well, I've listened to his rally in Montana. Where did he exactly pander, and what policies did he have that don't resonate with white voters? Because technically, if Trump goes out there and say, I will support X for white people, that's, first of all, I'm not talking necessarily about the media firestorm, but by and large, how does that exactly appeal to a group, a demographic that doesn't really have a big in-group preference? And you could say maybe they should have one, especially with all these anti-white attacks. And Trump has come out against he said there's an anti-white racist sentiment that's brewing in the country. If people want to cherry pick base things Trump said in 2016, you got to look at the full picture. But you got a lot of people, mainly like the far right, the fringe right, they're very loud. They don't exactly resonate with the average voter, though. That's the thing. And the same thing goes with the establishment right. They're not a big portion of the electorate. The average, woman in the suburbs that's in her 50s is not going to be some warmongering neocon who flips out at every little thing that Donald Trump says. And the average disaffected white guy without a college education in Wisconsin is not going to be some far right, one of these Groyper or whatever type of people. So a lot of people online that operate in online circles, they misread the electorate. You'll get, maybe if you have these events, we're going to counter signal Trump from the far right or whatever, you might get 30, 40 people that show up. But what is that going to prove? If anything, Trump is just going to be more incentivized to come out and give a statement that's going to be condemning set people. And I think Vance said something this past weekend about it as well. And they're mad at that, but it's okay, well, you attack the guy's wife and you say a bunch of stuff that is not optical, and you don't expect him to distance himself from you when he's trying to win an election, and you throw a temper tantrum about that. It's ridiculous. These people just don't live in the real world. They don't. Sorry, it's true. And that's the way it is. I want to win. I don't care what the establishment hacks are going to say, the dissimps are going to say, the, fringe right is going to say. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Scott B says, is Virginia back in play from the paper ballot? I don't even know what impact it's going to have. I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's necessarily going to be changing the result a whole lot. What can I say? Sam Madsen says, ideally, we'd like to win at least one more Senate seat than West Virginia, Montana, or Ohio in order to be assured of holding the Senate into Trump. Well, I think if Trump wins, we're going to get 53. If Trump loses, we'll probably get 52. But if Trump wins, I think we get either Michigan, we get Nevada, we get one of those states. I really think ticket splitting is going to be much lower than people think. I would not even be surprised if Trump wins Wisconsin by like 2 and then Eric Hovde ekes out a victory just based off of that top of the ticket poll. I mean, we saw effects that you wouldn't even expect down ballot in the midterm. Chuck Schumer only won by like, 13, 14? Last time he won by like 50. So again, the top of the ticket poll is real. There's no reverse coattails. It's all top of the ticket poll. That's what's happening. John Waffle H2P for 20 says, we must understand the mind of a typical Democrat voter. They're about nostalgia and change, and Kamala being the first black woman party leader is a huge boost to their delusion. We cannot underestimate this campaign. Oh, I agree. I'm not, okay, Ilhan Omar, we have 5% of the vote in. She's at 50.8%, 5% of the vote in. So she's up for now. It seems like that's the only county that's going to be in. I think it's Hennepin, but she's in the lead. So we'll monitor it as the votes come in. But yeah, you know, I think that I think that we can't underestimate, but I also don't think the average voter that's struggling is necessarily going to sit back here and vote for somebody just because they are a black woman. There are NPCs out there. That's true. And we can't underestimate them, but Trump voters are not going to flip on a dime. That's what I've analyzed. It's you have other people coming to the table, and that's also what's skewing the polls in the Democrats' favor because they want to be polled. Something happened that's exciting. These people were just demoralized and decimated for months and months on end. Many were defending Biden, but they were like the Wojak that's tired and sad. Now they're energized, they're hyped up. And I think we're still hyped up by and large. I don't think like Twitter is necessarily real life, but we'll see. But yeah, Omar's doing much better in the early dumps than Cori Bush was doing, or Bowman. So I think she might actually hold on. CJYT96 says, your take on Midas Touch doing 20 Trump videos daily. Honestly, it doesn't surprise me. Look, we need to just combat it. Like, you have all these lunatics, these scumbags taking everything out of context or trying to sensationalize stuff. We need to do the same thing. You know, you have Kamala rallies. I mean, just play the same thing or play clips of Trump saying things in context and sell them and say why this is good. Like, that's it's just warfare. So you just got to keep on fighting. And we need accounts doing it. Like, I saw there's an account now calling out the lies of the Kamala headquarters account. And that's good because, now that account's now at 100-some thousand followers in one day. It's going to possibly catch up to the original. And that's what they're doing. They're running an Occupy Democrat style campaign. The same level of delusion, the same level of just hackishness, the same level of taking everything out of context. It didn't work out for certain people in the primary. I don't know if it's going to work out for them in the general, but they got a hell of a lot more people. This is not a primary, so we'll see. JJ says, is there anything Hovde could do, in your opinion, to guarantee or be reasonably certain to help Trump do better in the suburbs of Milwaukee? That'll probably boost it. Because like I say, it's top of the ticket. He's got to make sure that he can paint Baldwin as a fraud so he limits crossover support and then hope Trump does well enough to just carry him. I think it's possible. He's a likable guy, but, you're down. You're facing a very, very well-known incumbent, but he does have money. It's not like he's in the dark. Hamster Eater 96 is here in Washington. Under 35 turnout was 21% with the state average of 43. Very little enthusiasm among young voters. Interesting. Well, they're always a very low propensity demographic. Donald Trump is actually doing his best job to court that style of voter. And I actually found this on Twitter. I could actually pull this up because this is actually big news from the Calvin Coolidge Project posted it, but it was posted, I think, by somebody else. The internal data on Twitter shows that most people who watched the Trump-Musk thing, 77% were under the age of 34. And the millennial demographic, if you want to expand that up to people 44 and under, it was 87% millennial, 94% if you include Zoomers. Now, maybe that's because of what you're seeing with a lot of these, social media platforms just skewing that way. But a lot of it is the fact that Elon's got that big audience and Trump is doing a lot of these other things. Like he's going and streaming with Aiden Ross. He's going on all these podcasts, doing Nelk Boys. Vance did the Nelk. I watched it yesterday morning. I thought he did a great job. But you're just seeing what's going on and the outreach to those demographics, especially men, use the crypto bro stuff, the libertarian convention stuff. He's really going after those voters. And I think it's smart because I think a lot of them are malleable unless they have a testosterone level of, less than 300 nanograms per deciliter or however it's quantified. Let's see. Johnny Heartdog for 10 says, I'm pretty sure Trump will win Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. Wisconsin likely is called long before Pennsylvania. Once Wisconsin's called, we can go to bed. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect to call in Arizona unless Fox, if let's say Trump wins Arizona, Fox is going to have to call it early for Trump. But, they're it depends. Because the first vote dump is like 60+% of the electorate. It's the early vote dump. Kamala Harris is probably going to win that by around 10 or so. If she wins it by less than 10, Trump has basically got the state. If she wins it by like 14 or more, I think that she might be the slight favorite, depending on how the election day vote goes. But then you get the election day vote, and then you get like the late mail, late early. That's usually in between the two. Usually breaks around 50-50, maybe a little bit more Republican. So if we get the election day votes, which we probably will get a big chunk of them, before we end the stream or go to bed, I think we're going to have a very good idea of how Arizona is going to go. But Nevada, I think it could take years to finally count those votes, regardless of who wins it. But I think, yeah, we probably are going to have a clear idea of who the winner will be. Probably. I don't know by how much. But let's see. Andrew Mortensen says, I think we should have an Elon Musk moderated virtual debate with Harris and Trump. Could reach millions, be super effective. Yeah, she's not going to agree to that. You might want her to. It would be smart if she did, but she can't. It actually would be dumb if she did, to be fair. That's why she won't, because she's not a smart person. She can't, communicate well off the cuff. Trump is going to eviscerate her in the debate to a large degree. Even if it's 50-50 down the middle split, that's still a win for Trump because Democrats are hyping her up to be this super, effective person. When she actually gets out there, if she falls on her face or even just like, I don't know, she's really going to just have to talk in word salad. Just like Biden can't complete a sentence, she can't complete a sentence. Just because she's younger doesn't change that. She's dumb. She's dumber than Biden was when Biden was at his peak, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Jason Kelly says, do you think Trump is capable of doing rally speeches in under an hour and cutting out all the fat and focusing on the issues? Is he disciplined? Well, I think he should probably cut out a little bit of the fat. If you want to do 2 events a day, you should only probably be speaking for like an hour. He loves to go on for like an hour, and it's like a movie. You watch a movie in the same time frame as a Trump rally, depending on the movie. But I think he just gotta tweak the speeches depending on the states a little bit. And I'm not saying he can't go off script at all, but I think I think right now it's probably better to stay more on script than off script for sure. He's going to have his Trump moments, and that's great. But usually down the stretch in 2016, 2020, he was on message, and I think it'd be better off to cut off some sort of the tangents as soon as possible. Krishan Lay says, thoughts on Lake's chances in Arizona now that Ducey endorsed both her and Trump? Probably, I guess you'd say went up a little bit, but not by a ridiculous amount. Ducey usually endorses the Republicans. He endorsed her in 2022 as well. But, he might help a little bit, get some reluctant people on board. I think that, you have to support the Republican ticket. Some people don't like Kari Lake for a reason or another, but it's like, do you want a radical leftist in the Senate who's just a total clown representing a swing state? The answer is no. I mean, Carrie Lake on the issues is relatively sensible. I think it probably more moderate than people would think, but some people just don't like the fact that she like contested elections or whatever, which again, there were shenanigans blatantly. I mean, it is true that contesting them probably isn't going to alter the outcome, but I mean, what else do you expect her to do? Let's see. Chauncey Hart says, when you look at the polls in August past, Trump is doing very well. That's not a cope. It's a fact. The dooming online is probably an op, honestly. Yeah, well, I mean, I tend to agree. We'll see what the polls say in September. I think the race is neck and neck regardless, but I think Trump's got the edge in the swing states. Joseph Voll says, O'Keefe did a report on fraud in D5 Minnesota. Well, that was like 4 years ago. I'm not super worried about that specifically. I mean, those people barely spoke English. Who knows what the real situation was there? I'm not saying that nothing was going on, but I don't know. Hamster Reader 96 says, Tim Walz is basically the overly handsy coach who gets caught putting cameras in the girls'. Yeah, honestly, I get that vibe. He's the weirdo. Trump said freakish. I think that's the more accurate term. You know, people say weird. You know, people always want to say, we're not weird, but then you're on defense. And technically it's true. I think that they're more of these weird ones, but at the end of the day, their normal is the real problem. If you're not a little weird in terms of the political climate, I don't think you're doing something right. I think that these people are visionaries that introduce these new, topics like Vance about natalism. They're called weird, but no, this is a much needed discussion. I'll say that much. So, but yeah, it is true. Walz is a weirdo. Stephen Kanizik says, if Elon loses the primary, her brother/husband will be very disappointed. Yeah, it's true. She did marry her brother for legal purposes to allegedly commit some sort of immigration fraud. They say you can't mention it. I don't know why they say that. It's 100% true. Base Cats' Buffalo Butt Shank went peak shit lib for the Harris campaign. Someone said he should debate Vance on his show after calling him out. Oh yeah, I'd love to see that happen. Vance would eviscerate Shank. That would be hilarious. It'd be hilarious. Mitchell Ryan says, do you think Trump can ban George Soros from the U.S. in terms of funding and organizations? I mean, look, if the left can go after us with the justice system and with all these legal avenues, we should probably do the same thing to them. But, let's deal with that after we take office first, Don't want to give away the playbook too much, but I don't know if it'll happen. I'd like for it to happen. Am I a little skeptical because Trump is like saying our revenge is success and whatever? Yeah, a little skeptical of what's going to get done. But in reality, I think that there's a lot of things we need to focus on. We got to get the border done. We got to get a lot of stuff done. That's part of it. I'm not saying it's not a part of it, but if Trump really wants to round out his messaging well, the only thing I see that's really missing from 2016 is this swamp element, drain the swamp. And maybe it wouldn't work as well because he's already been there for 4 years and people are just going to be like, why didn't you drain the swamp in 4 years? But no, he's got to build on that for sure. He definitely has to build on it somehow. Drain the swamp used to be a part of the rally, and it definitely got a lot of people on his side. Where's the swamp draining aspect of it? Be intrigued to see if Trump can managed to work that into his messaging. Because to be fair, he didn't really start working that in until late in the 2016 campaign either. Andrew Mortensen says, also, I wanted to say for everyone to hit the bell on this page to get notified we're in election season. No better way to get content. Exactly. Like the stream and hit that bell for notifications so you never miss another stream. Let's check the sub count. We're getting closer. Subscribe. Let's get to 194K. We're getting there. We're getting closer. Make sure you guys like the stream. Let's get to 1,500 likes and make sure you subscribe. Yeah, too big to rig, somebody said. Too big to rig in the sub count as well. Let's get it up there. Let's get 194. I want to get to 200K. I mean, look, we're on track this month if we could pick up the pace a little bit because in the first 10 days, we've gained 3,000. So we got to keep on going. But Seeking Findings says, please provide a link to the crowdfunding for polls. Also, the pollster showing Kamala leading in the swing states is AstroTurf, not real. Make a plan, vote, take 10 people with you. That's also true. I'll put the link for the fundraising. We're doing a fundraiser for our next set of polling. It's going to be more expensive because we're putting more time and resources and effort into the specific polling. But we do have a GoFundMe. I'll put the link in chat. If you guys want to donate to the GoFundMe as well, feel free to donate to the campaign there for the poll. We're going to do national polls. We're going to be doing Pennsylvania soon as well. We have not done Pennsylvania yet. We did Michigan, but that was with the old methodology. The new methodology, it's more expensive for sure, but I mean, it's probably going to be worth it, I would imagine. Jesus Nieves, thank you for the 10. W. Burke, 8,000. Thank you for the 5. Jared Sparks says, thoughts on Democrat strategy this election. What will they do will they do what they did in the Arizona election? Should we vote early before machines? Yeah, vote early. If you live in Arizona, I'd recommend doing an early vote and track your vote, because people are like, well, what if they toss it out with track the vote? That's the thing. If you track the vote, it's not going to be a problem. But usually, like I said, we just got to get out and vote. There may be some magic ballots or shenanigans or something, but we got to just make sure we can outvote it. I mean, the RNC has invested a hell of a lot of money into safeguards and protections, and it gets lost on a lot of people. But if you know people that are like, I don't want to vote because they think it's rigged or whatever, then you need to tell them the truth and cause a domino effect, because those people are just sitting idle, and we know which side they'd be on, but they're just going to be wasting their time not showing up because they buy into the demoralization op, and that's not good. That is not good. Let's see. Ash K2 says, border mayor endorsement and abortion referendum guarantees Arizona go blue. Same for Nevada since she adopted Trump's tip policy. As of now, Arizona and Nevada lean D. This guy comes in and sends the dumbest super chats every single stream. He sends the dumbest things for, I don't know if it's for attention or maybe because he's like 15 and he wants me to, make himself feel better after he watches like a Let's Talk Elections video, the more liberal counterpart who makes like 10 videos a day just to keep up with us in the sub count. But either way, nobody cares about some stupid mayor at the border that probably endorsed Biden. Kamala Harris adopting a tip policy from Trump when her record is opposite. This is like saying, well, Trump supports police reform. He's going to get all the black vote. Like, it's the same logic. It's stupid logic. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. So, again, yeah, somebody said crybaby doomer troll. Yeah, we have a lot. But they give us money, so we can't be too mad. Death Gaming says the 5th district results are taking so long because they're trying to determine the algorithm. So, Omar, I don't think the establishment wants Omar to win, so I disagree. I mean, they've spent a lot of money against her. They see her as a headache. She's contrary to them on, like, the Israel policy to an extent. I don't think the establishment really cares if she wins or loses because she's a headache. She's a thorn in their side. They have to deal with the criticism that they receive by propping her up as a future star. So I don't necessarily believe that that's 100% true. But Minnesota, they're just 24% statewide. There's only 5% in this district. She's probably, in my opinion, going to win, but I don't think that's why. Andrew Mortensen says 2016, A New Hope. 2020, The Establishment Strikes Back. 2024, Return of the Donald. So true. Apex Caliber says, are the second debate rules the same? Helps Trump? Well, I think that they are going to be the same. It's the same rules he agreed to, the same debate he agreed to. They should be the same. I mean, Trump, when he's measured and he can't interrupt, which I don't even think he would because he's kind of more mellow this cycle. And he didn't even do it in the second debate with Biden in 2020. But yeah, I mean, he performs better in the eyes of these undecided voters. Say it louder for the people in back, please. Sent 5. David Mendez TV. Says Nick Fuentes is L. He would make me vote Kennedy. W. Burke 8000 says, really impressed that you knew that about Lincoln. Love your can-do attitude and level-headedness. You're the anti-doomer, one of my favorite YouTubers. Well, thank you. Appreciate the kind words. Exactly. Says, shut up and take my money. Keep it up, rep. Well, thank you. Casually Unfiltered Forever. Thank you for the 1. All super chats count. They all add up. JDK for 20 says Elon's endorsement was huge during their interview. He took a few seconds to state how he's moderate, listed important issues, and specifically spoke to the independence that we will need to win. It was presented well. It was. 26 million people tuned in at one point or another. That's huge. Our top live stream from 2020, we got 600,000. I think while it was live, we had around 400 some thousand. That was huge at the time. But, that you take that and then you multiply that by 2 and then multiply that by 30. Like, that's how many people were there. So, let's see. Jimmy Payne for 10 says, with DDoS attack on Musk-Trump interview, what are your thoughts on EU meddling in our elections? Well, it could be an issue. I think that we should have paper ballots. I don't like the machines. I don't think I haven't seen enough specific machine-related stuff that proves hacking, but I think that they can be hacked, and I think it is a problem when it's all said and done. Hand recount at a minimum needs to be happening in every single swing state, period. Bipartisan, you can monitor it that way, but I don't know. We'll see. I think that they are meddling, but I don't think it's going to be with the direct votes. I think that they're going to be putting out propaganda. I think that they were behind. Somebody was behind the Trump campaign leak. I don't know if I'd buy it was Iran. That's like the scapegoat. And maybe it's Iran, but it could be the EU. It could be the CIA, the three-letter organization, trying to sabotage Trump like they actively did while he was president. So I would not be surprised if it's an inside job. It's kind of like Watergate in a way, the sequel. Some guy broke into the headquarters of the Trump campaign in Virginia. Everybody saw that, but it kind of already is being memory hold. Samuel Harrison for 10 says, I feel like we should not underestimate Harris and Walz in the debate stage because that is what we did with Biden in 2020. Plus, they will be prepped very well. Well, I mean, I don't think we should underestimate them on the debate stage, but I'm just saying that, we can't exactly imagine that these people are going to be like and maybe that's how we should prepare. I don't even think Trump likes to prepare. But Harris, as a public speaker, we've seen her speak. If she's on that debate stage with Trump and Trump lets her speak without interrupting, because that was the issue with Biden in the first debate. It was not Biden was such a good speaker, because the second debate was a 180 in terms of how people perceive the performance. But I really think that we shouldn't underestimate them, but I don't think that there's any problem in just accurately gauging the fact that she's not very intelligent, and neither is Walz, especially compared to Vance. Vance with his, IQ that's probably like 40, 50 points higher than Tim Walz. And Donald Trump, who it doesn't even matter at that point. He has so much ammunition. And the guy's a smart guy. He did all that with no notes. He's got everything on the top of his head off a whim, knows everything that he's going to say. The media wishes that age would be a weapon they could deploy against Trump, but they can't because, age was never the real problem with Biden. It was how with it he was. And Biden was not with it. Donald Trump is relatively with it. It's not about age. Kamala Harris is younger, but she's not with it. And she's only, 17, 18 years younger? I mean, that's not even that big of a gap, to be honest. Trump's an older boomer, then she's a younger boomer. So 84Z28 Bear says the suburbs will vote for Samuels. Well, we can't tell which precinct is which precinct here. DePueb says, why do your streams always have more live viewers than Vince despite having less subs? Well, he got a lot of his subs off shorts, which, sometimes his videos do very well. Sometimes they don't necessarily get views for whatever sub count. But, when you grow mainly off shorts, it's going to be really tough to get individual videos and streams to grow the following. I think he's done a very good job of that, though, to be fair, because you have a lot of channels that even have double or triple the subs they get off shorts, and the videos get, 1,000 views on average. So, it's definitely, there's definitely, I guess you would say, some sort of reason that the shorts play into that, to answer your question. Aaron Ratliff says, could Walz's pro-Israel stance backfire on Kamala? Well, Walz is somebody that's kind of, I guess you would say, supported the protesters. I don't think it's going to backfire. I don't think it's necessarily going to be enough for these crazy people that still interrupt the Kamala Harris rallies, which I think is funny. I hope they continue to do it because it's funny. But, at the end of the day, What can I say? Cali Patriots is betting on Minnesota to go to Trump is undervalued on Polymarket. Kamala is not in reality a 93% shot to win in Minnesota. I agree. I don't think that Trump's going to win Minnesota, especially at this point. But, you know, if polls get closer in the state, I could see it being a decent buy. Now, disclaimer, I don't give betting advice, but that's my piece of betting advice. Andrew L. Mastery says, unfortunately, I think Kamala did well enough against Pence with no word salad responses. I'm hoping Trump can make her glitch, but I'm not optimistic. Well, I don't think Kamala necessarily did poorly against Pence, but I do think that he won the debate, and I say this as somebody who's no fan of Mike Pence. Now, I will say this, though. I really feel as if it's a different set of circumstances. Donald Trump had a laundry list of things for people to attack him on over COVID, which again, blew up in their face and they were proven wrong in the long run, which is the most frustrating part about it. But, you know, in terms of the VP debate, it's a little bit different because Kamala, on her record, there was not much attacking. It was mainly about defending set records. She's at the top of the ticket. She has to defend her record, and she has to defend Biden's record too, because she kind of owns a lot of that. And that's just not going to bode too well for her all around. So I really, really, really am looking forward to the debate. And I don't think it's going to be I'm not saying it's going to be a slam dunk. The media is probably, like I said for Biden, they will narrowly declare Harris the victor of the debate. They did the same thing when she was up against Pence. And everybody knows Mike Pence won that debate. Everybody knows it. Secession Now says free Palestine. Ilhan Omar is needed now. Stop the war in Iran. No congressman for Israel. We got the Palestine people already in our chat. They've trickled in already. I don't even know. That could be It could be a right wing Palestine supporter. I have no idea. Chauncey Hart says, "Why did you delete the last stream? It was good." Well, listen, I don't delete my streams. They're unlisted. Just check out the archive playlist. It's on there. Or check if you liked the stream. It should be in your liked videos tab. And I tell people this because they are like, well, you take the stream down. And it's like, the streams are still there. I just redirect them in most cases. I'm probably going to leave this stream up because it's getting a decent amount of views. So let's see. Mike Capecci says Trump is not only going to win, but he will win a state no one expects. That state will be Maine at large. And I say this is banger GOP. Well, I hope you're right. Those two electoral votes could go a long way. If Trump gets Georgia, he gets, Georgia, Wisconsin, Nevada, and then adds Maine at large. I think he gets to, 269? He'd win in the House. I mean, it's a nice prize to have. You get 3 of 4 up there. It'd be nice to have, but, I mean, I don't know. Let's see. LB says Pennsylvania and Georgia should be prioritized. Well, they are being prioritized. Trump wins with both. I agree. It's what we've been saying. Ash K2 with another super chat. Let's see what this one says. Reality check. A lot of people like tax cuts and want access to abortion. How many more winnable elections do we need to lose to nominate a moderate? People don't understand that Donald Trump is a moderate Republican. He literally is in many fronts. There's also people that want abortion banned. And you can't win with those people if you have an openly pro-abortion Republican. And if you have somebody who wants a ban without exceptions, they're also not going to be able to win, because you're right in what you say that both of those positions are popular. But Donald Trump's position on abortion is not an unpopular position necessarily. When you see polls decide it nationally, leave it to the states, it's closer to 50-50 than you would imagine. So I don't think we need to say that we support abortion like they do up in Canada. How does it work out for the conservatives there? They lose to unpopular Trudeau every cycle. Maybe now that's going to change. But we need to be pro-life. We need to make the pro-life movement more appealing, in my opinion, to sway public opinion. And there needs to be ways to do that. I think their leadership is a big problem. The same people that are like, we wanted Trump because he'd overturn Roe, and now we don't want, some of them say we don't want to vote for Trump because Trump doesn't want to do anything else. But it's like, you understand what the other side's position is, right? Trump has the most electable farthest right position that you can have on abortion for right now. Now, as things change, messaging needs to change, and we could possibly move to the right. But you don't even have it banned in Wyoming statewide or Utah statewide, and you want to start talking about a national ban, even if it is something reasonable, like, or in the eyes of some of these people, if they knew what was going on, like a 12-week thing, they're still going to say he's banning abortion nationwide, which again, it's just not a conversation that I think we need to have right now. Maybe down the line we do, but we got to win this election or there's no restrictions ever on the table. Mockingbird for 10 says Trump should debate anyone on the left on the ABC, CNN, and Fox. If Harris turns down the debate, he should engage even RFK Jr. to take attention away from Harris and set a contrast that she's hiding. I don't think giving RFK Jr. airtime is a good idea because you don't know how that's going to work out. You don't want him to eat into your base. Maybe if he does the opposite, it helps you. But either way, it's not exactly something that's ideal. Leon says, looks like Hovde and Baldwin will have around, I guess you say the same amount of votes. Good sign for Hovde and Trump. Well, I don't know. I mean, Democrats and Republicans turning out at the same rate in a primary is in a low propensity state for Republicans like Wisconsin, I guess it's kind of a good thing. Overall, Hovde's doing very well comparatively in the WOW counties. That's also good. He's got that appeal up in Ozaukee. He's doing well, but I don't know if it means much. I really don't. Baldwin's uncontested. So I don't know. I don't think it's a bad sign or a good sign. Security TV says, off topic, what are the chances Kane goes down in Virginia? I hate that guy. He sucked as governor, and he sucks as a senator. Well, Hung Kao, I don't know. He's a strong candidate on paper. The campaign so far has not really gotten off the ground, and it's kind of disappointing for the record. But, I think he had the resume to maybe do it if Trump was actually running against Biden still neck and neck in Virginia. I thought he might have had an outside shot, but now it doesn't seem like he's really having a campaign that's developing. Lovely Six says, can Trump have a debate next to an empty podium? It would be peak optics for Trump, just like it was for Ossoff in the Georgia runoffs. I don't know what the hell Perdue was doing. Antonio Salieri says, abortion rights measure on the ballot in Arizona. Will this hurt Trump and Republicans as it will energize Democrats? I think if there's any sort of reverse coattails thing, it would be from referendums. But here's the deal. People are not going to turn out to vote first and foremost for that. And Harris already energizes that crowd enough. So you will have people split their tickets. They will vote for Trump, and then they will vote for the abortion thing, and then the inverse. Although Arizona is not as pro-abortion of a state as some people make it out to be, I will say that, compared to Michigan even. But Dova Budgie 100 says, is it wrong to not support Israel? No, it's not wrong to not support neither of them. I don't think that it's wrong necessarily. People have their reasons. People in this country, the main focus should be on putting America first. I said the same thing back with Russia, Ukraine. People got mad. Turns out I kind of had the position that would become the majority position overall. I'm not saying that I have anything against specific nations, but it's largely true. I don't support foreign aid for really any country, especially during the current climate. Yeah, Israel could take care of the job on their own, and we need strong leadership abroad. We don't need to be having these conflicts. I support the Abraham Accords and stuff like that Trump got done, because what that was going to do and what that did is it allowed countries in the regions to come together and do something unprecedented where you didn't have to sit there and meddle or have a future, neoconservative administration meddle, which again, now they're not even following these accords mainly because they don't respect whoever the hell is running our country right now. But I don't think and I think that's kind of a position a lot of people in the Midwest tend to have. I don't really have the biggest dog in that fight either. But the Palestine people are very annoying, and there's a lot of cognitive dissonance with some of these people on the right that, I guess you'd say fringe right, that just throw a temper tantrum every time Trump even dares to mention the word Israel. That just, I guess you would say, has made me a little bit lean more towards the Israel side of things. But I don't support foreign aid or anything like that. Let's see, Liebers Says, can you explain how women politically trend now and will in the future? You briefly mentioned this last stream responding to Vince Dow in the chat. Well, I don't remember what I said last stream, but what I do know is that women as a whole, in terms of their voting patterns, they're pretty much going to move left in the younger generations. And maybe that'll change if they get married, but marriage rates are slipping. Rates of the birth rates are slipping. Family rates are slipping. This is the J.D. Vance stuff they got mad at him about, but it's true. I mean, you look at what's going on. You do have this gender divide, and with men, it works out well for us, but men are more likely to be disaffected, which means they're less likely to vote. I think Trump is unique in that sense, because a lot of young men that I know, they're not going to turn out to vote for Ron DeSantis, or they're not going to turn out to vote for any one of these other Republicans as much as they would turn out to vote for somebody that's like an icon like Donald Trump. But they're also not probably going to vote in a midterm election either, for the record. So these people need to be reached out to, and you need messaging for them to counter it. But they always say, the woman vote, the woman vote. What about the men vote? Do we not exist? Do we not matter? And I'm not saying that we can't have policies that women should like safety. Women should want to have families. Women, in many cases, should not support the murder of their own children before they're out of the womb. In some cases, the 8th month, the 9th month, elective abortions happen. The left pretends that they don't, but they do. But no, it's 100% true. We could do a lot in that department with reaching out to young men, but young women, I don't really think we have to ignore their concerns either. I feel like their concerns should be similar. FM 32047 says GOP getting 55 Senate seats and Dominici's a huge sleeper in New Mexico. Sadly, I fear Harris as current VP won't certify the election if the three-peat happens. Well, look, what is she going to do at that point? She's not going to certify, but they already passed the law that would basically guarantee the VP has to certify because they wanted to strengthen it because, they said, Pence couldn't do it. Technically, you could argue that he could have done it, but they passed this law that would prevent a future instance like that from taking place, the Electoral Count Act, for a reason. And with Kamala Harris, she's going to have to abide by that. The Supreme Court, I think, would probably be forced to step in at that point. Aaron Ratliff says, what are the chances of chaos at the DNC? We'll see. We'll see. Let's check Minnesota real quick. What happened? They called it. Omar, everything. She won by 13. Well then, 16,000 vote lead. That's an expansion over her previous. Like I said, I feel like her district is going to be more sympathetic to her, in part because of this whole Palestine stuff. You got a lot of, it's not just Muslims, but you have a lot of Muslims, Somali Muslims there, but you also have a lot of the far left types that are more fired up to vote in the primary than they were back in 2022, partially because of this. Those uncommitted voters, that voting bloc, and they're turning out for Ilhan Omar. So she won, which is what it is. There's pros to her winning and there's pros to her losing, to be fair. You get to keep one of these lunatics in there. Who does that make look worse? The people we don't like. That's political ammunition right there. I think we should prop up more of these crazy people in primaries if you want to be honest. You could maybe argue about the Overton window shift, but if it's just certain House seats and whatever, it's not going to make that big of a deal in terms of the national chances or in terms of these votes that we see. Might even force the Dems in the middle to move to the left or move to the right or do what they need to do. Scarborough Film for 10 says, why are we forgetting there was brazen, in-your-face, industrial-scale election shenanigans in 2020 when Trump was ahead in some instances, hundreds of thousands of votes until the fourth. Well, look, a lot of the votes that were dumped were not necessarily fake. And people might get mad if I say it, but let me explain. You have Democrats mainly voting by mail. You have Republicans mainly voting in person. Pennsylvania counts the in-person votes first, which I think is stupid. They should be like Florida or Ohio and do the opposite. And I think now some states have changed their rules and they're going to start doing that. But you have these dumps. Now, I do believe that there are shenanigans and we have a lot of dead people. They know these people might still be on the books. And maybe they see the early votes or the election day votes dumped first, and they say, okay, maybe we need X amount. But in reality, that lead of 400,000 or 500,000 in Pennsylvania wasn't going to stay there. But still, when you talk about the final margin being like 70,000 votes, razor thin, 95% of that vote dump could be completely legitimate. If the rest isn't, that's a state that the Democrats gain. So I don't know what the final margin is, for the record, across those states. I think there's different ways of potential shenanigans, but I'm telling people to vote, and we also got an election integrity system with the RNC that is fighting back against it and effectively has. There's lawsuits they've been winning. I mean, we were losing a lot of the 2020 lawsuits. Now they've won a few lawsuits since the new RNC has taken over. It doesn't get talked about enough, but it's real. People just need to put their heads down and get out to vote and get other people to vote with them as well. So that's my take on the matter. Test Channel Wow says, the primaries foreshadowing a Trump loss. These primaries don't mean anything. I mean, the actual primary with Trump on the ballot was extraordinarily good. I don't know what you mean by these primaries are foreshadowing it, unless you're talking about Minnesota. But, I mean, like, what exactly is there to analyze here? What Republicans had competitive races to turn out? Democrats are going to turn out like crazy in the 5th district. That's going to drive up their turnout statewide. Anyways, I mean, if you look at Wisconsin, it's more 50-50. I would say it doesn't foreshadow anything, but what can I say? Let's see. Session now for 20. So U.S. approves $20 billion to Israel. They don't have $20 billion. Tax cattle pay. Okay. Thank you for the $10. Secession now. Session now wants you to know he does not support Israel. Thank you for the 10. Top Dog Obedience says it's over. Omar wins big. Scarborough Film LLC. We did that one. Okay, we're all caught up. Ice Cream Junkie says, was Fox irresponsible to call Arizona so early in 2020? Is water wet? Of course they were irresponsible. I'll even say their 2016 call of Wisconsin for Trump was premature and irresponsible. That's what Fox typically does. Technically, you could say, well, the call's right, but you got to wait and be precise. Some people want me to call a state. If I'm on election night, I'm not going to do it until I have enough data, I have enough certainty where I can go out there and make that call. I'm not going to jump to these conclusions, period. Not going to jump to the conclusions. But now I will say the way that the election system has been set up, it's set up to cause chaos. The Democrats have done this on purpose to cause the specific chaos. And there's a lot of shenanigans. Look, it doesn't matter. Even if all the votes were real in 2020, it was all rigged because they changed the laws. They changed the laws of the election before the election takes place illegally in many cases. They bragged about it on Time Magazine, and they censor the media. They censor the messaging. It's awful what they did. It was a garbage election. If that election had 2016 election standards, 2016 election laws, Donald Trump would have won. It would probably maybe even won the popular vote. It would have been a sizable victory. Even with the worst conditions in the world, in the everything that we had at the time. Sam Madsen says, good news. Looks in what might be the tipping point seat for the Minnesota House. We're going to avert nominating the terrible schizo candidate. Well, that's good. D. Bleo says, Will Stansel has lost. We got two cocky Stansel bros. Isn't that some crazy Twitter guy? I think I've interacted with that account before. Let me see. Is he running for House or is he running for State House? I can't tell. I literally cannot tell. But no, I wouldn't worry about the primary data. Also, Democrats, they're 68% in. We're only 54% in. We'll see what happens. Royce White, I remember Royce White. You know, he was drafted highly in the NBA, but he had anxiety attacks. He couldn't fly. So the Houston Rockets, they sent him to the D League. Now it's called the G League. And he would do numbers there, but he would never be able to make it back to the NBA. But I guess he's now like a Trump guy, and he's got, I don't know, he's an interesting character. I'll leave it at that. From some things I've read about him, but I don't think he has much of a chance to win. But that'd be pretty funny if he won. Clay Franklin for 10 says, do you think that Trump could ever win 60% of male voters? the most left-leaning male demographic young men is, it's possible. I think we're going to see a bigger gender divide than people think. What straight white male with any ounce of testosterone in their body is going to vote for Kamala Harris? Just think about it. You can't justify it. You cannot justify it. And the whole white guys for Kamala stuff is going to backfire because it just look at who's in the call. You don't want to be associated with those people. People are saying, well, this is like she's actually trying to outreach to white people. But again, white people don't usually see themselves as a set group, a set block. I mean, maybe in the younger generation, it's a little bit more prevalent, but even then it's ironic. It's like, white boy summer, all this stuff, all these memes that you see. It's true, but it's ironic. And even then, it's not even, it is kind of in a way not just exclusive to whites that engage in that culture, because it's just, I don't know, it's just meme culture, which is kind of, I'd say it's young men, and culturally it's white, but there's a lot of like Hispanics and even some non-whites that partake in that as well. But even that's probably not something that you can explain to the median voter effectively. The median voter is probably like some guy who's in his 50s, early 50s. Maybe he has a family. Maybe he's divorced. Probably works long hours. Probably makes, $50,000 a year, give or take. I mean, that's the average voter, white median voter. They're not the type of person to vote for Kamala Harris by any stretch of the term. We're talking about like the Obama-Trump voters in the Midwest, I would say. Let's see. More super chats. We have CCM28 says, would have been funny to see the youth vote results if there was World War III and Gen Z was getting drafted. Oh, yeah. I mean, who knows? They'd probably find some way to blame Trump for World War III and do these Kamala TikTok dances and still get most Generation Z women on their side. But Generation Z men, it's very, very different. Very different. Security TV says it's frustrating living in Virginia when it's deep red but controlled by 4 cities and Dems that work in D.C. but live in Virginia. Yeah, there is something to that. People that don't live in the place that they work but then vote in the interest of the place that they work. I mean, it's very telling. But we have our results here. We'll do these last few super chats. We'll say last call. It'll be the last call for super chats, and we will end the show in probably about 10 minutes. So make sure you guys like the stream. Make sure you guys subscribe. Let's check the sub count, actually. We'll check the sub count. We'll check the sub count right now. We are getting up there. We're about 100 away. So like and subscribe. Hit that bell. Let's get 2,000 likes on the stream before we leave. Before we end up leaving. Let's get to 2,000 likes. So here we go. Let's see what super chat. Nitty Linny for 10 says, I really want to make sure my vote is counted. Do you recommend early voting, day of voting, or by mail? For reference, I'm in Kentucky. Well, to be fair, Kentucky's not going to be a place where there's going to be a lot of shenanigans. You can vote whichever way you want. It's probably going to be properly tallied. However, I probably recommend, for you, it's just whatever you'd like, honestly. I recommend early voting in person. I feel like that's the best method, and just do it late. Do it late. LB says, in terms of a fair election, how can GOP fair it? I don't know what you mean by that. How can the Republicans have it, or how can we make our elections more fair? I think you have to go back to, I think you need everyone to adopt a set of election standards that are, I guess you would say, more in line with a state like Ohio than a state like Arizona or Nevada or California, where it's third world. I think the universal vote by mail is wrong. I think it should be by request. If you want to mail in your military, they vote by mail. But you want to make sure these ballots get in, get counted, etc. You name it. And I think you can't have ballots that arrive after election day either, because that's also stuff that is just that's not right. You shouldn't be allowed to do that, period. And while these things like early voting, ballot harvesting, they exist, I think people should take advantage of them instead of complaining about them if it's legal. Mike Capecci, thank you for the one. Murrow Boy says, you think Trump can win Virginia because Youngkin wants paper? I don't think it's going to have that much of an impact, to be fair. The problem isn't necessarily just machines. I don't like machines. I don't think machines are really responsible for much of anything that went down in 2020. I think it's more magic ballots, and paper ballots are not. I think I prefer paper ballots. I think it's actually faster to count them by hand than it is with the machines for some reason. But I don't think that much in terms of the end result is going to change. Tyler Resch says, should Mark Lamb run for Arizona governor in 26? I'd prefer him to Robeson, because I'm sure she's gunning for it. So let's see. Dova Budgie 100 says, hoping to make Wilkes-Barre 3 out of 4 rallies in Pennsylvania. Yeah, Wilkes-Barre is a really good spot, too. I mean, it's in the Scranton area. They've got a lot of people. Scranton is a big place for Trump now that Biden's out of the race, and even then he was probably gaining. Can he win Lackawanna County? Can he win Scranton? Northeastern Pennsylvania, that's ground zero for Trump's victory, and the biggest, their favorite son is not on the ticket anymore. And even if he was, I still think Trump would have won the state, but I do think there is something to be said about Kamala Harris that's weak, that's not being fully represented in the polling. And when you have a full turnout election where you get every Trump supporter out, make sure these people can vote. I mean, it's definitely going to be I think it's going to be a close race, but I think that Trump's got the upper hand in enough states to win. I think he's going to win Pennsylvania, North Carolina. And at that point, he needs 15, 16 electoral votes to win. He gets there with Wisconsin and Nevada. He gets there with just Georgia. There's a lot of pathways for him to get to 270. It's honestly incredible. And I'm hoping that he gets it done. I think he probably will. We got to keep fighting, though. It's not over. Dova Budgie 100 says, pronounced Wilkes-Barre. Yeah, look, I make a lot of errors with these places. How many names are there that we analyze in every election? How many counties are there? There's thousands of counties, hundreds, if not even thousands of candidates that we have to pronounce their names properly. So, no, I get it. Sometimes I just prefer to say it the way that I want to say it, We'll see. People are talking about sentencing. Might actually help Trump if he gets some sort of a sentence, even if it's delayed, because that's definitely going to get a lot of people on board paying attention. It doesn't really seem like this whole convicted felon, like they did that for like a week and then they stopped. They realized it wasn't effective. And now what are they doing? What exactly are they doing now? And again, even after the first week after the conviction, people were questioning the polls. Biden surge. Trump messaging, all the same criticisms you hear now, and now Trump is starting to turn it around a little bit now, like he was starting to turn it around a little bit then. So people just don't understand the cycle of how these things usually operate in terms of the uncertainty and a lot of panic for reasons that just are not justifiable. It's a big problem that a lot of people have. They think they know more than they actually do, or whatever, one thing or another. Jonathan Williams says, took my LSAT past Friday, hoping for a decent score. Well, congratulations. Definitely, it's a long journey, and the next 20 days are probably going to be, or whatever, until you get it back, or you're going to be overthinking a lot of things, and we'll see. Sometimes it comes in and it's higher than you thought it would be, and other times, well, for my time, it was much higher than I thought it would be, which is good. But it makes sense when you look at it, because you panic a lot, so you question certain things when it's completed. Samuel Harrison says, how do I track my vote? I live in New York in the 17th district. I feel like I missed a super chat about that. I could be wrong. Oh, no, I actually answered that one. I think that there's certain websites. Somebody can put it in chat. I don't know the name of it, but I do need to know the name of it so I can tell people. DePweb says deport Ilhan Omar. Yeah, that was long overdue. Send her back. Remember that? They got so mad. They got so mad at that. But I mean, it's technically true. She hates this country. If you commit immigration fraud, if you ask the average person, this person committed immigration fraud. They married their brother. Do you think they should be allowed in this country? Everybody's going to say no. It's common sense. I mean, people just freak out at certain things because they just buy into this nonsensical narrative. That's why I really like the idea of somebody like Vance as Trump's pick in many aspects, because he can just use the high IQ to cut through the media narrative effectively. And he's been doing that lately, so good for him. Really good for him. He's really finding his footing. All right, so I think we're going to wrap things up here. We have another super chat, though. CCM28 says, Hovde doing really well in Racine. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, well, he's doing better in the WoW counties than Racine, actually. He's doing well statewide. The one exception is Dane County. You might have some interference there, or just some very liberal independents taking the Republican ballot to mess with Trump. And then upstate, you kind of have a little bit of defections here. Really big super chat. Dennis Milliken for $100 says, keep up the good work. Well, thank you, Dennis. That is huge. I didn't realize I could like or heart the super chats. So that's going to be the first like of the super chat on my end. So DePweb says Bunger. Well, thank you, but also thank you again to Dennis. Dennis with the 100. That's huge. That super chat, yeah, it's got 30 likes already. That's going to stay there till the end of the stream. It probably would, I think they stay there for like an hour if you donate that much. But yeah, this guy, he's coming in with the entire bank account tonight. So we appreciate that. And I will keep up the good work. I've got a lot of content planned. Stephen Howard says, do you think Trump wins Tarrant County, Texas? How about Bucks County, Pennsylvania? I see it flip via voter registration, but not sure how it translates. Here's the take on that. I do think he will win Tarrant. You can see the skyline in the background. That is in Tarrant County. I think Trump is going to win it. I don't think he's going to win it by much, but I think that you'll see enough shifts to the right among like Hispanics and just even Californians moving that are more right-leaning. It's going to be more than enough in my book to see it flip back a little bit. It voted for Abbott by 4 or 5 or something like that. It's not what it was 10, 20 years ago, but it definitely is going to vote in my book Republican by a slight margin, maybe 2 to 3. I think Bucks County, I think it's going to be closer. I don't know if Bucks is going to flip. But I do think it's going to be closer than it was in 2020, and that is definitely every inch counts, and the voter registration stuff helps. It's not everything, but in a key swing area like that, it does show something might be changing. It just depends on what's going on. Ash K2, let's see. This probably is his last one for the night, saying Harris is gaining ground in Texas and North Carolina, which, again, source, trust me, bro, or some liberal pollster. Trump needs to get his act together and stop embarrassing himself like the NABJ interview also were the same. Well, that's honestly a little bit of a self-own there with the last part. But as for the Trump NABJ interview, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was hilarious, honestly. Like, I don't think it's going to gain him very many voters. But look, Trump said Kamala Harris, or he didn't say she was not black, but he was like, she was always saying she's Indian. And then one day she happened to turn black. And I respect either one. But which one is she? It's true. I mean, like, I know people, and you talk about Texas. Let's talk about a friend of mine who lives in Texas, who I know works a blue-collar job down in the Houston area, works with a lot of black people. knows many black people who were voting for Biden that are not voting for Biden because they don't like Harris for one reason or another. Some will not vote. Some will vote for Trump. So you want to talk about anecdotes and whatever, and I know it's an anecdote, and I'm not saying it's indicative of a larger thing, but what I do know is that it is true. Harris is not going to get this Obama-level enthusiasm with black voters, and she doesn't have much appeal with black men, and the whole, Tulsi Gabbard thing back in 2020 kind of plays a role into that. I'm not saying Trump's going to run up the margins. It's a very small portion of even the black electorate. A lot of black voters are women, actually. But still, I mean, you're talking about a demographic that voted heavily for Obama with black men, 3-4% of the electorate still not as enthused, usually votes maybe not 90, now it's like 80% Democrat. Younger generations, it's even lower than that, and will probably get lower in some of these younger generations, not like ridiculously lower. But with Donald Trump not even doing much black outreach this cycle, he's polling better than ever. We'll see if it translates. I don't know. But what I do know is that you talk about anecdotes. There's a lot of anecdotes out there. There's a lot of them. They don't really look too good for Kamala. Because I don't know a single Trump voter that's like, I voted for Trump twice, but now I'm going to vote for Kamala. You'll find a few on Twitter that are grifters that were already never Trump, even when he was winning. So, Heavenly Sunshine for 2. Jared says, have you heard of Royal Crown Politics? You should do a reaction to his video on prediction for president based on the approval metric. Well, I don't do reaction content for the most part. If I was going to do some reaction thing, it'd be on the second channel. But I guess I'll look into it if I have time. I don't know. But we will be ending the show. We've been going on for almost, an hour and a half or so. Or hour 40 minutes. Okay, yeah, we're going to end it. We've had, actually, let's hit 2,000 likes first. Let's hit 2,000 likes. We're almost there. And make sure you guys subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're knocking on the door. Maybe tonight, maybe early tomorrow, we'll hit 194,000. We'll see. We'll see what happens, guys. But I've got a video or so planned for tomorrow. We might, if the content, we get a lot of content for content, we're probably going to have to start posting a little bit more frequently, maybe even twice a day in some instances. We'll see. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching the stream. Make sure you guys like the stream before we go. We just hit 2,000 likes. Subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video or stream. Follow me on social media. Follow the Twitter. Let's get up to 100K. Follow the Instagram. Let's get to 10K. Links are in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.